Welcome. Good morning, and welcome to First Parish in Framingham. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we are a welcoming congregation, which means no matter who you love, how you move around the world, your race, your age, your gender identity, your beliefs, no matter where you are on life's journey, you, yes you, are welcome here. I'm Kevin Stern. I use they, them pronouns, and I serve on the Board of Assessors, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please be sure to read the announcements in the order of service, and be sure also to put your phones and other devices that might make noise on their quietest setting. While beeps and buzzes may be distracting, we welcome your human noises, your cooing, your laughter, and especially your singing. Please join us for coffee and conversation in Scott Hall across the courtyard after the service. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. It takes a lot of courage to try out a new religious community. We look forward to getting to know you better. And if this is the religious community you call home, welcome. Let us release all that we need to let go of in order to be more fully present to yourself, to one another, and the sacred in this time and place. And now we will proceed to the chalice lighting.
I invite Abigail Crawford forward to light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith.
Kathleen Mateague writes, "Here in the refuge of this Sabbath home, we turn our busy minds towards silence and our full hearts towards one another.
We move together through the mysteries, the bright surprise of birth and the shadowed questions of death.
In our slow walk between the two, we will be wounded, and we will be showered with grace, amazing, unending.
Even in our shadows, we feel our lives cradled in holiness we cannot comprehend.
And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we do not walk alone. This is a holy place in which we gather, the light of the earth brought in and held, touched then by our answering light.
The flame on a chalice, the flicker of a candle, the lamps of our open faces brought near. In this place of silence and celebration, solemnity and music, we make a sanctuary and name our home. I invite you to rise and body or spirit both work just fine to sing our opening hymn. It's number 2 in the gray hymnal, Down the Ages We Have Trod.
See
I invite you to remain standing and sing our song of affirmation, words which are in your order of service but may be also imprinted on your heart. Love
is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
You may be seated.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lauren Strauss. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here at First Parish. Hi, Emmy. And I say with you all this morning, good morning, and welcome to church. So later on in the service, you are going to hear one of my favorite songs. It's called Holy Now, and it's by Peter Mayer. And the children and I won't be here for that, but we will listen to it in church school because it's really worth a listen for anyone. But maybe, especially, it's worth a listen for UUs like me, who are now UU, but grew up in a different faith, going to another church or synagogue, or maybe nowhere, on a Sunday morning or Friday evening. So I want to tell you about this song. The main character of the song is an adult man who remembers being raised in what sounds to me like a Catholic church. He remembers the priest blessing the bread, reading from the Bible. And what he learned at that church was that only a few things were holy. And I think of it as like me with a whole steak and one little piece, offering it to my dog, like teeny little piece, and making the dog work for it, for that tiny piece. Except that the man grew up. So in scene 1.5 in the song, he's grown up and now he sees everything, the whole world, as holy. Flowers and red-winged birds and water and children and just everything. And unlike what would happen if I just let my dog loose in a room full of steaks, got that? When the whole world is holy in your eyes, you don't start to think holy stuff is boring, and you don't get sick from experiencing too much holiness. Learning that everything is holy, wonderful, miraculous, amazing, means you begin to appreciate everything. To slow down and listen to the red-winged bird singing like a scripture verse. All we see of this man's life in the song is these two glimpses, when he's a child and now. So the change that he describes seems big and all of a sudden. But what do you think? Did he just wake up one morning and everything was a miracle? Everything's holy? Maybe. Or did he grow into that change over a long time? I don't know, what do you think? Who thinks it was fast overnight? Oh, nobody, wow. See, it could be, like you could wake up one morning and just see the world differently. That happens sometimes. But how many people think it was slow? Yeah, I'm team slow. I think that gradually over time, this man learned a different way to think about the world than what he learned when he was a little kid. Maybe he decided in his teens or 20s or later that some of the things that he learned in church didn't make sense to him anymore. It might have taken him weeks or months or even years to decide to go to a different church or to stop going to church. He might have spent some of that time reading, talking to people, building himself a new way of thinking. I bet that some of the things that he learned as a kid are like that it's important to be kind and generous and loving. I bet those things are a part of who he still is as an adult. But we don't know because the song doesn't say it. But the thing is, even change that looks really sudden and drastic usually only feels that way because we weren't there for the part that happens behind the scenes. For the person who's made the change, they've done a lot of thinking and considering. And again, what do you think? Does a change like this mean that that person is totally different? Or are they basically at heart the same person? And we're going to talk about that in RE. So I invite you to sing the children and teachers and me to class.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
We are a people of great joy and also a people of great sorrow. This is the time we set aside for sharing of those things which weigh deepest on our hearts. In between the sharing of our joys and sorrows, we will sing the song Comfort Me with slightly different lyrics. You can submit your joys or your sorrows online or at the book that is at the back of our sanctuary. These are the sorrows of our congregation. Oscar Lilienthal writes, "A good friend and colleague passed away unexpectedly this past Wednesday. My thoughts are with her students, but also with her family, including her 5 kids. This is a huge loss for the entire Potter Road school community, and she'll be dearly missed. She was an amazing teacher, friend, mother, and human." Tom Ostfeld shares this sorrow. "My mother fractured her hip yesterday and is awaiting surgery this morning. She is 89 and in failing health." We share this sorrow of the Crawford family. This week, we lost our canine companion of 16 years. Guinness was a good boy and will be dearly missed. Let us now sing Comfort Me.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
And these are the joys of our congregation. Valerie Packard writes, "It was a music-filled Saturday. Valerie performed with her band at Craft Roots in Milford, and Veronica competed with the Framingham Marching Band, and they won first place." Marianne Orlando shares this joy. Happy anniversary, sweetheart, 33 years. Valerie Waldman shares this. My husband Ed had emergency surgery last Sunday, but is home and recovering. Let us now sing with me. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. And we know that often there are joys and there are sorrows that are too tender to share. So we light one final candle for all of those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken but still deeply held in our hearts. Let us now sing, Speak for Me. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. And now we enter into this time for contemplation, meditation, and prayer. There are many ways that we can get centered. Perhaps it is noticing our breath in and our breath out. Maybe it is closing our eyes for just a moment, or feeling the support of the pew beneath us, the chair beneath us, or the strength of this gathered community. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls each one of us by our true first name, which is beloved, we give thanks for this community, for these sheltering walls and roof, for these people sitting to our left and our right, for songs and music, words and silence. We give thanks. We know too that there are broken-hearted people in our congregation, people who are mourning, people who are healing. And when all the tender-hearted people living in the world agree, they will come together. We give thanks, and may we have courage to lend a helping hand and a listening ear. We pray for peace in all of the war-torn parts of our world. It seems those tears are getting more frequent, more widespread. May we do what we can to bring peace to our parts of the world and put those in power in a place where they realize that peace is possible. Let us work to mend where oppression has broken us. This work of bending the arc of the universe towards justice is tough work that will take centuries. And it is because of that work that we must do it. From time to time, we slip up with our words. We say things that we didn't mean to say. We put distance between ourselves, others, and perhaps our understanding of the sacred. We are loved and lovable, not in spite of these imperfections, but because of them. And because we are breathing, there is still chance to move back into right relationship. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. As we enter our time of silence, I'm reminded of these words by Barbara Pescan. In this familiar place, listen to the sounds of breathing, creaking chairs, shuffling feet, and clearing throats and sighing all around. Know that each breath, movement, the glance meant for you or intercepted, holds a life within. Let us sit in the quiet of this place for rest or renewal. Barbara Pescan continues to say, these are signs that we choose to be in this company, have things to say to each other, not yet said but in each other's presence still, trembling behind our heart's doors, these doors closed but unlocked. Each silent thing waiting on the threshold between unknowing and knowing, between being hidden and being known. Listen and rejoice. Once a month or so, we donate our entire plate to support the work of a local nonprofit. Eve Benda is here this morning to speak with us about the Diaper Project.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. So 9 years ago, First Parish initiated the Diaper Project to address the critical need for diapers among financially stressed families in the greater Framingham area. We partnered with A Place to Turn, a food pantry in Natick, which serves as our distribution site. So what have been the results of this initiative and partnership? One, the Diaper Project began as a modest program in 2016, our first full year of operation. 52,769 diapers were donated. In 2023, this number had grown to 127,808 diapers. In 2016, an average of 75 families per month received diapers. In 2023, we served an average of 242 families per month. Today, the Diaper Project at A Place to Turn is likely the largest diaper bank in the greater Framingham area. Two, approximately 5 years ago, A Place to Turn revised its mission statement to include diapers. So now it reads, A Place to Turn provides healthy food choices, diapers, and personal care items to Metro West residents. This ensures the sustainability of the Diaper Project and guarantees that residents will continue to have a place to turn for diaper support in the years ahead. And three, we've built a very strong community of donors whose commitment was demonstrated this summer. In mid-July, a place to turn contacted me and urgently requested diapers due to a critical shortage, stating they could not continue purchasing diapers with their own funds at that rate. I immediately reached out to the churches, preschools, child care centers, and nonprofits that had hosted diaper drives in the past, explaining the urgent need. The response was overwhelming. Between July and August, 27,642 diapers were donated, compared to the previous period, the previous year in that same period of 15,687 diapers. What began as a community service project here at First Parish has grown into a thriving network of organizations dedicated to keeping babies clean, dry, and healthy. So today marks the kickoff for National Diaper Need Awareness Week, and we begin with Share the Plate. But let's also aim to have the box outside Scott Hall overflowing with diapers next Sunday. We are proud here at First Parish to have initiated the Diaper Project and continue to generously support it. Thank you.
Today's reading is Dawning by Yahya Lababidi. There are hours when everything creaks, when chairs stretch their arms, tables their legs, and closets crack their backs incautiously. Fed up with the polite fantasy of having to stay in one place and stick to their stations. Humans, too, at work or in love, know such aches and growing pains when inner furnishings defiantly shift. As decisively and imperceptibly as a continent, some things will stretch, croak, or come undone, so that everything else must be reconsidered. One restless dawn, unable to suppress the itch of wanderlust, with a heavy door left ajar semi-deliberately and a new light teasing in. Some piece of immobility will finally quit, suddenly nimble on wooden limbs as fast as a horse fleeing the stable.
Thank you, Kevin, for reading. So this sermon is one about change, and I want to begin with a story of change right in our own denomination. As you have likely heard, we have in our bylaws this clause that says every 15 years you will evaluate what you believe and see if that matches with what you actually believe. So every 15 years we do this, and this summer marked the end of a 2-year cycle of revision and renewal. Now, over the years, Article 2 has shifted. In the very beginning, it had principles like these: to strengthen one another in a free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship, to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man, to affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and the use of the democratic method in human relationships, to implement our vision of one world by striving for a world community founded on the ideals of brotherhood, justice, and peace, to serve the needs of member churches and fellowships, to organize new churches and fellowships, and to extend and strengthen liberal religion. And 6, to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. And these principles gave direction to our denomination for 24 years. Then in 1985, we adopted new principles for our faith. Ones that are probably more familiar to you if you are a Unitarian Universalist. Words like the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. The goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And those principles existed, guiding us, still guiding us today. They are historical documents now. Now we are learning what it means to be a faith tradition that has values like justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Our practice in shifting our values is probably something that will serve us very well. We say that we are a living tradition. We say that we will intentionally look at our values every 15 years, just short of a generation. Now, as part of the shift of the principles from 61 to 85, there was a movement in our religion to embrace feminist theology, especially with the Women and Religion Business Resolution passed at GA in 1977, specifically which gave us direction around putting traditional assumptions and language in perspective. Avoid sexist assumptions and language in the future. All those references to man from 61 to 85, gone in the 85 to 2024 principles. There were other changes as well. When first presented, there was no seventh principle. There was no sixth source. We began to embrace earth-centered spirituality as a next wave of feminism entered into the conversation. There were also small changes from 85 to 2024, some that were voted on and some that were not. We don't always approve of the changes. In 2009, there was an Article 2 revision vote that actually failed. I wasn't a very active Unitarian Universalist in those days, especially in denominational affairs. That came much later when you are required to start to worry about those. It seems that that proposal was focused on changing the words of the sources. That vote failed by 13 votes, which would have permitted another year of discussion after that. We changed the wording of the words and deeds of prophetic women and men, which is noteworthy to begin with. We changed that to the words and deeds of prophetic people to acknowledge that there are people who exist outside of that gender binary. That was in 2017. When we entered into this time of renewal and revision, there were a few movements of change at that time. One was coming from the grassroots, you remember this, encouraging congregations to adopt an eighth principle, to focus on ending racism and other oppressions in the world, the denomination, and our congregations. You also had the official Article 2 Commission proposing changes. That study commission was charged with being bold, and I think they were. For good reason, because stated values have certain implications. There are theological implications. They help us articulate our shared values and theology. There are also social implications. They serve as a shared cultural touchstone. Educational reasons, because they list concepts to teach and sources to draw from. Personal reasons as well. They serve as a personal code of ethics. There are evangelical reasons. It's a way to explain to others who we are and draw their interest in. Finally, we use them for rhetorical purposes. They're used in public situations to define our beliefs and morality in legal or political contexts. So this was a big change that we all held, that we are learning what does it mean to live into. I want to explore the littler changes now. The changes that occur in you and me when inner furnishings shift. In her marvelous 2-book Monk and Robot series, Becky Chambers shares the story of sibling Dex. Sibling Dex, in the very beginning of the book, is a garden monk. Soon, they decide it is time to make a shift in their vocation, in their primary identity of being a garden monk, to become a tea monk. Chambers writes these words: "One day in early spring, Dex got dressed in the traditional red and brown of their order, bypassed the kitchen for the first time in 9 years that they lived at Meadow Den, and walked right into the keeper's office. 'I'm changing my vocation,' sibling Dex said. 'I'm going to the villages to do tea service.' Sister Mara, the keeper of that monastery, who had been in the middle of slathering a golden piece of toast with so much jam as it could structurally support, held her spoon still and blinked. 'That's rather sudden.' 'For you,' sibling Dex said, 'not for me.'" I think that moment where sibling Dex decides that the truest thing that they can do, the way to be the most authentic version of themselves, is to change vocation, is likely what our poem today describes. I imagine that revelation to Sister Mara is like what Yahya Lababidi wrote when he said, "When inner furnishings defiantly shift, one restless dawn, unable to suppress the itch of wanderlust, with a heavy door left semi-ajar deliberately, and a new light teasing in, some piece of immobility will finally quit, suddenly nimble as on wooden limbs, as fast as a horse fleeing the stable." I'm always fascinated when I hear people say that their values or identity has changed over time. I'm always curious, what is the story of that change? Usually happens with a personal story or several, when we realize that our old story does not suit us anymore. The song that the choir sang so beautifully is also a song about transformation, about realizing that the holy is not just found in a church, but in fact, everything is holy now. Choir, again, you did such a wonderful job on that. It is also one of my favorite songs. What is true is that that moment of transition, when the labels have changed, when we see those labels changed for the first time, that change happens in an instant. Maybe it's the moments right after transition that are the hardest. I'm being a little too abstract here. Let's get more concrete. As some of you know, I have not told everyone because it's not a part of my personality yet, I completed 2 sprint-length triathlons this summer. 3 sports, 3 ways of moving, 1 morning. While the swimming was challenging, and I'll talk about that in a later sermon, more challenging than I thought, I will say, biking and running were fine. I can ride my bike the distance that I needed to ride, and I have run further than I needed to run that morning. But it's the in-between segments, the transition zones, where you get your shoes on, you put your helmet on, and you get on your bike, or you ride into the dismount zone, and you get off your bike, and you take off your helmet to start to run. Those were the most interesting thing, because those are tougher to practice. I can do better on the transitions, but they also weren't that bad. I do those tasks every time I would get on a bike or start to run. I always put my shoes on before I run. I knew that it was awkward to switch disciplines, to switch my way of being in the world. Those were the strangest. To go from swimming to riding a bike, my body was like, what are you doing? Same with going from running to biking. Even the entry into the water from the dry land, that transition was tough as well. We are all moving from one way of being into the next, and bodies and organizations tend to like to be objects that stay at rest, or at least resist change. Even slight reorientations can feel like a threat to our way of being. to our safety. We have new values as a denomination. I said that already. The blueprints have arrived. The recipe for the meal is here, and it is now up to us to adopt these new values into our life as a congregation. We need that transformation. We live in a world that so desperately needs our progressive, liberal, and liberatory faith. People need us. I think we forget this. People need us in order to survive. And if we only read the history of our denomination as what we see in the values and in the words and the bylaws, we would think that these changes are very sudden. It would be like if somebody told the story of our life only from the addresses that we received mail at and the dates that we lived there. It's like when a church tells its story about only the buildings that they met in. It does not tell the full sense of joy. It does not tell the full story of struggle. It does not tell the story of the change. It does not tell us why. I wonder, do we have it in us to transform? Will we continue to mourn the way of going to church that we knew, that our children know? And will we mourn that it does not serve the way the next generation of churchgoers will want to look for church? People no longer look for answers, they look for meaning. People no longer automatically belong to religion or a church. They look for community instead. People no longer look for a denomination that has the best catchphrases or the one that they belong to or their parents belong to. We look for a place of acceptance and celebration. There are some who say that the church goes through a reformation or revision every 500 years, and we are just about past due for another reformation. But I also wonder if we only realize that a faith has changed when we sit down to write the history. A point in time, a time of transition, only becomes a historical date when we sit down to write the history books. Now, not many of us make a practice of embracing change. If you do, I would love to speak with you. You are rare, I think. There are ways, though, that we can cultivate a beginner's mind. Change can be scary, but I don't think being a beginner is. There is an expectation as a beginner that you do not know, that you simply have more to learn. What's also true is that we don't often recognize that change is grief. Perhaps we need to take that change and that grief more seriously. What is true is that the change is always inside of us before it's out in the open. We often think that transformation is just something that happens. We think about the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, which is beautiful. A form shifts. But then we remember that the caterpillar turns into goo in between that transformation, another transformation. And that, as a metaphor, is beautiful as well. But then we learn that the caterpillar's immune system actually fights off the imaginal cells that work to turn the caterpillar into goo and then into the butterfly. The immune system fights off that change. Transformation is hard work, and the change is often resisted. We can still mourn the loss of the people that we once were, and we can also still be proud of the new thing that is emerging. So, my friends gathered here, what happens when our values shift? It can feel sudden, but we ourselves can feel those inner furnishings shift until all of a sudden we are that new person. A new set of values stirs in us, and that can be shocking when they finally emerge. As the poet reminds us, when inner furnishings defiantly shift, one restless dawn, unable to suppress the itch of wanderlust, with a heavy door left ajar semi-deliberately, and a new light teasing in, some piece of immobility will finally quit, suddenly nimble on wooden limbs as fast as a horse fleeing the stable. May our emergence be gentle, may it be beautiful, and may it be nurturing. May it be so, and amen. Let us rise in body or spirit, both of those work just fine, to sing our closing hymn, 128, For All That Is Our Life. And so as we leave this friendly place, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen, and go in peace.